Okay, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now 11:02 a.m. and let's take attendance and approve the minutes. So first, we're going to take attendance from those on the phone, and I'll call the names from the RSVP list just to make it a little bit easier. So let's see, where's my phone list? All right, I think Dan Fuller, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Dan.
Tom Mulroy, are you on the line?
He's right here.
Oh my gosh, there he is. Okay, Tom Mulroy. Did we have any other RSVPs
No,
on the
but
phone?
we could ask.
Okay, anybody else on the phone other than Dan? Okay, all right, so if we hear any more beeps, we'll just ask who's on the line. All right, and now for those in the room, Lisa, why don't we start with you and go this way?
Sure, Lisa Soto with I Love New York.
Hi, Sarah Emmert, I Love New York.
Eleanor Tatum, member of TAC.
Hi, Nancy Elder, JetBlue.
Tom Mulroy, Tech.
Ali Sirota, Sirota Public Relations.
Hi, Patty Owens, Delta Airlines. Catherine Nichols, TAC Committee.
David Holder with Visit Syracuse and the New York State Destination Marketing Organizations.
Pete Carfano, TAC.
Ted Blazer with the New York State Olympic Regional Development Authority.
I'm Christine Nicholas, Chairman of TAC.
Ross Levi with I Love New York.
Lizette Montero with I Love New York.
Mark Lee Wilson, I Love New York.
And Gavin Landry, I Love New York.
Do you want to start?
Sure. Ken Wong with I Love New York.
Andy Pelosi.
Hi, Andy, welcome.
Andy QBIT.
Anna.
Michael Bell, IT.
Ethan Troy, I Love New York.
Terrific, and I think someone else joined us on the phone?
Yes, it's Melanie Cloud, North Bend Partners.
Hi, Melanie. Okay, so everyone should have received a copy of the minutes. Lisa has additional if you don't have, and I wanted to see if there were any changes to the minutes. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Tom Mulroy motion, and a second?
Second.
Kath, okay. Okay, so the motion carries, minutes are approved. So this is our first meeting after the Tourism Summit. So Gavin and Ross are going to talk to us about how that went and the deliverables that we can expect for 2016 and 2017. After that, Gavin and Mark Lee, welcome back, Mark Lee.
Thank you.
Will talk to us about their recent trips overseas on behalf of I Love New York. And if you follow the I Love New York on social media, you will have seen the outstanding photography and video of the Catskills. If not, you'll see it today, and it really is stunning. Finally, we have a special guest today, Ted Blazer from the Olympic Regional Development Authority, known as ORDA. So Ted is going to talk to us about what's going on in the winter season and how ORDA is expanding or doing all the wonderful things that ORDA does. So first, let's do a brief on the TAC membership. We still have some vacancies. We have five vacancies, and I've had a conversation with the appointments office to discuss how we can be helpful in filling these vacancies. We had a conference call about 3 weeks ago or so. Lisa and Ross, or Gavin. Gavin was on the line. We understand how difficult it is sometimes to have a quorum, which thank goodness we don't need today, but there are times when we do need a quorum. So we urge those that are TAC members, and thank you so much for coming today, but to take this is this is an honor to be on TAC. Technically, you're supposed to be at all but 2 meetings, so I'm just reminding you of your commitment. But we do have to fulfill 2 members by the governor, 2 recommended for appointment by Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, and 1 recommended for appointment by Senate Minority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins. So the Appointments Committee is reaching out to them to let them know that they have these openings. Sometimes with the change in the government, they may not be aware of it, so they are being made aware of it currently. And then I appreciate any input. I know, David Holder, you've sent me a terrific recommendation or suggestion that we need some DMOs or people who actually run CVBs to be present at the table, and we agree wholeheartedly. Gavin and I and Ross discussed that, and we brought that forward to the Appointments Committee.
Excellent. Just let me know how I can help.
Thank you. So I think we're
Actually, a list of meetings.
Yep, okay, and then Lisa, you're going to distribute the list of meetings. I
Folks
believe you
have
have
that,
it already?
actually.
Okay.
At the bottom of
Yep.
your piles.
At the bottom of the pile. So Monday, January 23rd would be here in New York City. We do try to move it around a little bit so that we have 2 meetings a year in Albany. So hopefully, and the Albany meeting is usually in May, so because May is Tourism Month, National Tourism Month, so we always try to do something, not only just the meeting, but then we do something where we have an announcement. So we will love your input on that. And then we go back to New York in September and November. So, so now for the Tourism Summit, which I'm very excited to hear, as we all are, for Gavin and Ross for your report.
Great. Thank you, Christine, and I'll start and defer to Ross in just a moment. So, as you know, this is our 4th summit, and so in 2013, one of the directives that Christine and the governor's team gave us was to produce a tourism summit for New York State. And we did that. It was actually a unique format because each year, as Ross would say, it tends to be a theme. This year, it was really looking at how agritourism and how the agricultural components of tourism fit into the overall message of the tourism industry. And so this year's summit was named appropriately the Tourism and Craft Beverage Summit. And you'll notice that when Ross takes you through the deliverables, that we had some deliverables that spoke directly to that, and that's the reason why. So we definitely were excited to have that opportunity to showcase the state in that manner. And what I thought I'd do is kind of take you through what we call sort of our proof of performance. That's the internal term for it. But so year in review kind of video that we put together for the summit, and then we'll come back to that in just a moment, and then look at the deliverables that came out of the summit. So there you have it. And one of the things that I think is worth noting, and by the way, the Tourism Summit book that we produced for a kind of walkaway item is in front of you to take a look at. But the idea that was so striking to me this year, and I'd love to hear, Tom, your thoughts and you know, others that may have some thoughts if they watched it online. But this year's summit, by the way, I thought was one of our best, and it was just a message that was delivered both to the LG and to all the stakeholders that was so coherent and so relevant. And one of the neat things about it was, and in fact this was brought to our attention afterwards, is that instead of it being as in 2013 where everybody around the table kind of said, you know, Governor, this is what we'd like to do, or we think this is needed, there was a lot more talk about this is what we've done, and here are the results. Thanks to your support, thanks to your commitment to tourism, here are the results of that. And that was one of the more striking things, you know, about the summit, at least from my point of view. But Tom, you were there, and I know, David, you've been at all four. Peter was there. Any thoughts you might have?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it was very informative to see what actually has been accomplished in the last 3 or 4 years. And I think it's, other than getting there and the science to actually get into the place,
Right.
I think it was very informative.
Great. Peter or David?
No, I agree. It was really good to see these things coming about. It's about time we're really moving forward with tourism in New York State, so.
I thought one of the things that was impressive about it was, I think we're at a point now, we've seen so much attention placed on tourism, and we've seen so much progress. We're at a point where we need to start connecting the dots. And I think the combining the tourism summit and what was a standalone craft beverage summit, putting those together is one of those first indications. All right, we've matured far enough along with this, and the progress has happened. Let's begin connecting some of these dots that may seem like they're not completely connected, but there's so much on the same page.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, thanks for those thoughts. And yes?
I've been through a few administrations.
You sure have.
And I tell you that just the summits alone, bringing so many different groups together to discuss that topic is so important. And it has so much, I think it's very powerful. And I think it's made a huge difference in the direction that we're headed in the state with tourism.
Thanks, Ted. Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, as Lisa rightly points out, the posters that you see in the room were the regional representations that we had throughout the event. And then we'll get to this in a moment, but Lizette and her team, Ken and others, just made this incredible welcome experience that was a replica, or I always recreation of the Long Island Welcome Center experience that folks, if they hadn't had a chance to see, could engage with on the lower level. And then, of course, we had a reception at the mansion afterwards, as we always tend to do, and this one was, as they have been in the past couple of years, a Taste New York themed reception, which seems to be a nice way to kind of anchor in some of the things that David just mentioned. But so that's really an overview of the summit. But as you know, one of the big things that happens at the Tourism Summit is that we, I like to think of them as divined and mandated. Once they've been spoken at the summit, those are the things we're going to work on in the coming year, and we sort of securitize the governor's commitment and the commitment to tourism overall with the summit format. So the main thing there is the deliverables, and for that, Ross is going to take you through.
And actually, even before I jump into deliverables, another element of the day, for those who attended, no, but for those who didn't, was breakout sessions in the afternoon. The formats of these summits have gotten down to kind of a science now, which is, folks gather in the morning around a U-shaped table with industry, with folks from government talking about what we've done and what we've accomplished, folks in the industry talking about how that's had an impact, what they've been doing in their areas, and what those next steps might be. Then we broke and went, and the afternoon section is the part that has changed every year a little bit based on where we are and the theme and what's going on. And this year we did have 3 breakout sessions, one that was specifically on agritourism, and particularly the craft beverages industry, and our partners at the Department of Agriculture and Markets, they ran that. And it was a chance really for beverage producers in particular to talk about what else the state could be doing to improve that industry. We had a breakout on digital efforts that I Love New York has done, and more than that, brought in experts from the digital world to talk about what's happening watching the sort of most current trends in that area for our partners to hopefully learn some stuff to bring back as well. And then the third one was presenting the market research, which we talked to you all about in our last meeting, of the tourism market research that New York State had done, and doing a bit of a deep dive, at least a medium dive, in terms of what that data had shown us, so that, again, our partners could benefit from that, and if it spoke to them and the way they do their marketing, help echo and amplify and at least be in alignment with what the state's doing. And then we all reconvened to hear this, our deliverables, kind of like the sort of headlines of the day in terms of what the state would be producing as a result of everything we'd heard throughout the day and leading up to the summit as well. So to walk through those, the number one thing that we always talk about is the money, frankly, the overall budget line. And Gavin can tell you how that has, and others, Markley and others who have been here before us, can tell us how that has grown exponentially under the governor. And this year reached a new record, $55 million, a commitment for tourism for the upcoming year, which we still believe is the largest purely public investment in tourism in the country, as far as we know. There is an initiative around welcome centers. That's what Gavin was alluding to about what was recreated at the base of the egg for people's arrivals. But this is going to be a series of visitor centers on roadways across New York State that is going to really, to David and Ted's point, bring together the sort of various areas of promoting New York State, from a Taste New York store, in some cases I think a Taste New York cafe, that's at least in discussion in some places, I Love New York components, some of the great interactive elements from our pod that you may have seen, those are going to now be permanent in some of these welcome centers. There are artifacts, there are halls of fame, there are all kinds of things. Lizette could tell you more because she's been living that. Right. I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
I think we're going to jump to it when
Yeah,
we
do you
show
want
the
to?
video.
Okay, well, we'll
we can get
save
to
the
it.
video for the end. We're going to show you a video about the Long Island Welcome Center, so we'll talk more about that in a sec. There was an announcement about an I Love New York at Tribeca. That's the Tribeca Films Festival. It's a short film competition that'll be going on throughout the state to allow film students to submit a film about each vacation region, one for each, and then one will be selected as the best one. And there's a panel of celebrity judges that's going to be judging that. And it's sort of an interesting, creative way of getting people involved in promoting New York State. Heritage tourism. Next year's a huge year for New York on a lot of different fronts, but two especially that I think take on additional relevance. One is the anniversary of women's suffrage in New York State. The other is the anniversary of the Erie Canal. Very important, and there's already a lot of things going on around that. And so what was announced was the idea of a coordinated Path Through History campaign, a really vibrant campaign to make sure that we're taking advantage of those two special anniversaries to promote New York State heritage tourism. The award-winning I Love New York mobile app being expanded with walking and driving tours, so that there'll be parts of the state, whether you're in the Stockade District in Schenectady and want to do a walking tour there, or whether you're doing a suffrage driving tour, let's say, of the Finger Lakes or Central New York. And there's we've started discussions with our digital team about creative ways of doing that, but that'll be a new expansion of the mobile app. An accessible tourism initiative, kind of an I Love New York for all, to make sure that we are taking steps to make sure that New York State is accessible to folks with any mobility issues, disability issues. And so that may be about making sure that the best, most comprehensive and most detailed information on accessibility is available on our website and our mobile app, and also doing some technical assistance for our partners across the state to help them take the next step in accessibility. And this isn't, we've been talking about, this isn't as simple as, oh, we'll put a wheelchair on the website. As Anna Packman, some of you have met, the head of our digital team, talks about, Watkins Glen State Park is handicap accessible. What that means is you can get to the parking lot, you can get to the picnic areas, you can get to the gift shop. You can't do the gorge because there's all the steps and everything. So it says it's accessible, it is accessible, but the main reason you would go there isn't. And so the information that we would have would tell a visitor that, and tell you things about, whether there are closed captioning tours or other listening tours or, all kinds of things like that. So stay tuned for more. To Gavin's point, a couple of deliverables specifically around the agritourism piece. One is increased Taste New York exposure. Some will remember a couple of years ago that Taste New York had a really large presence at the PGA Championship up in the Finger Lakes that was really successful in terms of bringing to that audience, one which was already prone to care about wine and craft beers and that kind of thing, and let them know everything that is here in New York, both in terms of visitation and frankly in terms of products and buying products. And so there's going to be a $500,000 fund that is going to be set up with the Department of Ag and Markets to help them find those new opportunities. You know, what are other big events that has an audience that's ripe to think about agritourism and agricultural experiences. And then our Market New York program, which again has seen similar exponential growth, the way that the state, through the CFA and our EDC process, gives out money for local and regional tourism projects. That's now going to go up $2 million. This year it's a $13 million program. It's going to go up to a $15 million program. And that $2 million in specific is going to be for agritourism projects that in the locals or in the regions are talking about ways of promoting agricultural experiences. Those can be capital. So if it's a matter of, you know, well, we've been wanting to add a tasting room forever or expand our tasting room, it could be that, or it could be marketing, could be special events, could be any sort of that rubric. So that's the overall deliverables. I guess, should I pause there to see if there's any questions on any of those?
Not a question, Les, but just a comment on the agritourism. You know, growing up and living in the heart of the Hudson Valley as I do, and I was a director of tourism there from 1996 to 2006, I've seen how a lot of the wineries and the farm markets that were just basically U-Pick at the time have expanded into becoming, U-Pick farms are becoming wineries. They've got events, buildings to hold events in. Farms that become cideries now, Brooklyn Cider in New Paltz, Weeds Farm in Marlboro now does entertainment now. They have so they're growing within, they're starting from the niche, and it's growing out, not to mention the craft beverage facilities that have grown up around our area. So it was up and coming. It's really like picked up a lot of momentum in the last couple of years.
And so we want to go back to the Welcome Center for just a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, just
Sorry.
the World Junior Hockey Championships coming to Buffalo a year from now, and when I think of Buffalo and have the opportunity to spend time there, it is such a craft, food, town, agriculture. So for one of the mobile units to be planning on doing something up there, I mean, this is a city that loves dining and food, and it's going to be, of course, an international audience coming in, so the traveling stuff could be really effective up there.
That's a great point.
Great. And so we wanted to go back to the Welcome Center because that isn't just forward-looking, it's today. The first of those Welcome Centers on Long Island has been created, and we have a short video which will show you what that visitor experience is like.
Yeah, I'll show you that.
Our choreographing is, I think I've messed our choreographing up today. But no, really I want to just stop here and give credit where credit is due. Lizette was our project lead on this. I was fortunate enough to get out to the center before it opened to just admire the work that she had done. And it was, to say that it was a big lift and a great endeavor for me, is an understatement. I thought it might be smart, actually, if Lizette, if you want to tell them a little bit about how you kind of approach it, and then we'll give you, this is sort of a walk around, almost a POV kind of video, as opposed to, you know, anything really sort of highly produced, so to speak. But if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, this was really, it's on the Long Island, off of the Long Island Expressway, heading east, just past exit 51.
You guys had
Dix
something
Hills.
together.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, beautiful space, and it was actually done in collaboration with many agencies. To the earlier point about working together, it was a DOT-led project, actually led by the governor's office, of course, but DOT built the building, and we also worked with Ag and Markets and DEC and Parks, and obviously ESD had a big role in it. So it's as you approach, you realize that this is a little bit different of a Welcome Center. We really want to embrace all that Long Island has to offer and really promote everything from products to its history to all the great attractions. So, you know, you're greeted by a lighthouse that is a replica of the Montauk Lighthouse. There's a play area outside for kids, and where there's a big whale the kids can jump on, and a shipwreck where they can climb aboard. There's a Walk of Fame that is inlaid into the ground as at the entrance that celebrates famous Long Islanders. There's a car charging station, there's pet care area, and that's just the exterior. And then when you walk inside, there's a beautiful floor that extends 60 feet that has brass inlays of all the attractions, all the major attractions in Long Island, which is really great. And then there's a Taste New York Cafe where you can pick up, great, freshly made sandwiches and coffees, and as well as products. There's, mustards and jams and chips and all kinds of, and cheeses and meats. And so we're hoping that it'll be used by not just visitors, stopping in, but also locals who will stop in and get, some fresh ravioli they can take home and make dinner with. There'll also be a farmer's market on the weekends. And then to really, so our approach was really to make the experience for the visitors really as fun and as engaging as possible without requiring a lot of staff. So we used a lot of the elements that were in the pod and rebuilt them to be really focused only on Long Island. So we have our digital map and itinerary builder that's only Long Island based and highlights all of Long Island attractions. We have a huge video wall, again, beautifully shot footage of Long Island. There's our travel profile kiosk that features a great interactive way to really understand each person's travel personality, and we spit back great attractions that are based on what things that they might be interested in seeing. So if they're a history hound, we'll send them to places like Sagamore Hill. We have a great artifacts wall again celebrating Long Island's history, and a selfie wall where you can take a picture and be the eye in I Love New York. So we'll show you some of these things. I think that we also worked very, very closely with the local TPA and county executives to make this happen. So again, a great collaborative effort, and we look forward to building 9 more of these across the state.
The one that's on the Southern State Parkway, what's happening to that? There's one out in front of
Still to be determined. That actually is run by the local CVB. So it's local. It's not a state operated one. So it's not ours. But it's to be determined. It's still open, and we're going to sort of figure out how we can mirror some of what's happening in the big one. So this what you're going to see now is the model for all of the welcome centers going forward. They may contract or expand based on how much space we have in each of these areas. But I think that we're hoping that you'll actually stop by and see it in real life. But this will give you a sense of what it looks like inside.
Timeline of the other ones.
We're working on that now. We're doing site visits, and there's architectural plans being built, and I think that there's going to be a rollout of each of them, but the timeline is still being worked on.
But the sites are posted online.
Yeah.
All the sites.
Is there a proposed location list for these centers?
Yeah, it's posted
Yeah.
online.
It was announced at the tourism summit.
Okay, I must have missed
press
that
release
then.
that I sent out on the tourism summit. I sent
Yeah.
it out a few weeks ago, right after the tourism summit. It's in that press release.
Okay.
All right, so now we can go ahead and roll the video.
that is, and Lizette spent any number of weeks there. And as she mentioned, not only did we collaborate with Ag and Markets, but there's a component with you can get your fishing license, you can get your, I think, your hunting license, renew your driver's license. Right. So it's a really well thought out facility, and frankly, it's a gem. So we're looking forward to seeing some of the rest. Any other thoughts or questions on that before we continue?
Yeah, I just want a point of clarification. When I heard was that you mentioned something about this only being for Long Island? Because, I mean, the governor has repeatedly said that he wants to try and build tourism upstate by bringing downstaters and exposing downstaters about all of the beauty of upstate. So I'm hoping that there'll be information available at this visitor center about upstate, just like in the remaining 8 that are not in Long Island, there'll be information about Long Island at those visitor centers about Long Island. So that, you know, we
Yeah,
can.
it's something it's been talked about. I know for Long Island, there was they wanted the focus to be only Long Island because as people are heading out east. But as we're building the other ones, it's something that we're talking about right now, and how much of an extension of that location we want to promote. But it's still being looked at.
I hope that they can rethink that, because I think they're missing a market, because those that are going out east to Long Island, a lot of them are folks that are from New York already, but they would be inclined to go to the Hudson Valley or to, you know,
that actually
Whiteface
is.
Mountain, or, you know, they're the same types that are, if you're used to getting into a car and sitting there for 3 hours to go 60 miles, you may as well think about going 3 hours and maybe hitting Syracuse, or, you know, so.
Your notion is actually right on point, Christine, because the centers, for instance, the one that's cited for Broome County is actually going to be looking ahead at different vacation regions. We haven't finalized which ones, but we're thinking Catskills, Central, and probably Finger Lakes. And then likewise, the one in Warren County, which is exit 17-ish, we'll be looking at the Adirondacks, interpreting the Adirondack assets. So the rest of the centers, because they're going to have more breadth, are definitely going to do what you're saying. And there's no reason why we couldn't even think about, you know, building in some non-Long Island content as, you know, time wears on this center.
But it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Congratulations.
Did you have a question, Ellen, or a thought?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, like, when you're going up the Northway, when you're stopping at the rest stops, you know, the information centers have stuff on every county in the entire state, basically.
And they still will, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, so, you know, because there are people like me, I'll collect stuff from all of it, because you never know where I'll end up.
That's right, that's right, that's great.
And I want that information.
Right, we want intrepid explorers like yourself, so that's great. So we'll switch gear just a little bit while I still have the report to give, and we're going to talk about our international markets. And to do that, it wouldn't be wise to go too much further ahead before I introduce Mark Lee Wilson, our Director of International Marketing, who, as you know, Mark Lee, is it your 17th year now?
Yes.
17th year. 17th year that he's been carrying the torch for I Love New York on international marketing, and he's just gone through several experiences relative to, or not gone through, but produced several experiences for the I Love New York international marketing team. So Mark Lee.
Well, there's a lot of interest in international tourism, and there's also a lot of questions in the minds of people about how they can get involved and how they can benefit from it. So we had this forum on the 12th of September designed to answer the questions that exist. But that was not all. It was also designed to help those who are interested in international tourism to identify specific action steps to enable them to benefit from international tourism. And it was open to hoteliers, restaurant owners, everyone in the state who's interested in international tourism. And during that day, we had the representative of I Love New York from Australia present, from Germany present, from the UK as well. And they presented on the market itself, what's happening there, what it's like, what their clients are like in that country. They outlined what they are doing to promote international tourism to New York State from there. And then they specifically gave the audience specific things that they can do to get on board with their marketing program. In addition to that, because of the potential that China offers, we had the development director of Union Pay, which is the most used credit card by Chinese, also present about what is this union pay and how can you benefit from having union pay facility available at your business or attraction. In addition to that, after our representatives presented, we had one of the TPAs present. We had Leah Mueller from Visit Buffalo, who has been working with us for many, many years, say, well, this is what I've done over the years, this is how I have benefited, and these are the best practices that I have observed, and this is my recommendation to you. So that was the day, and as you see there were 112 people who attended from all over the state. We then sent out a questionnaire after the forum, asking them all sorts of questions about the day, and in a nutshell, we got about 96 who responded, and out of the 96, 20 of them said that it met their expectations. None said it was below their expectations, and 43 said it exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, I had the pleasure of being able to be there, and it was a great event. First of all, the attendance kind of blew me away. That the amount of people from the TPA level down to the attraction level that really want to know about this area and recognizing the importance of international to them is great. And I would suspect a bit of a sea change too. That for people to actually think, well, look, I can get people from China to come to my place here in central New York, kind of thing, is great. And hearing the stories, particularly of what folks have done and how strategic they are, that this isn't just like, oh, it'd be great to have China and, we should do that. But there really is sort of the path that people are willing to take. Leah in Buffalo told her story of how it was basically kind of a 4-year process. Year 1 was this, and year 2 was that, and year 3 was joining us to go to IPW or WTM or something. And then exciting to hear the results. It wasn't at that day, but I will never forget the story we heard at the summit from the woman, Deborah Hughes, who runs the Susan B. Anthony House in Rochester, and told the story about how they have the guest book, and they had somebody writing that they were from Japan, and they said, oh, that's great, were you in Rochester for a conference or something? And they said, no, we were at the Javits Center, and we saw an I Love New York commercial, which is running on the screens there, that said the Susan B. Anthony House. We didn't know that was in New York, so we booked a JetBlue flight to come up and see it. So it's very satisfying to hear these efforts are having that kind of effect.
Absolutely.
And we just completed a sales mission, an I Love New York sales mission to China. And on that, we had a representative of the Wild Center in the Adirondacks, also a representative of the Adirondack Museum, Wine, Water, and Wonders of Upstate New York, which is the most popular package/itinerary program that's been marketed internationally so far. We had a representative of Ithaca, Visitor and Convention Bureau, and then a group that represents both Brooklyn as well as a resort that they are building near to what's the big?
Catskills?
No, the big place where you shop. That's not for.
Destiny USA?
No. Woodbury Commons. I know. Yeah, near the Woodbury Commons. So they all joined the I Love New York staff in 3 cities, and we presented first on the state as a tourist destination. Then each of them presented on their particular attraction, and then apart from that, there were then one-on-one presentations and discussions with those who attended by the attendees from New York State, going from table to table. And this was very, very well received. And those who came because they're interested in offering more visitors to upstate New York and Long Island. In addition to that, I also had some appointments when time permitted, including one with Ali Tripp, the platform developed by Alibaba, and we are in discussion about a possible MOU between us and them. And we also were able to meet with Union Pay at their headquarters to build on the presentation and project that we're working on together.
Well, thank you, Markley. That's great. And the fact that Markley was there to lead that mission was incredibly, bless you, Ross, incredibly important for us, and his leadership and knowledge. This is the second now tour we've done in China as a follow-on to last year, and our group there is outstanding that does the work, TLM. So this is exciting stuff. And in fact, Corning Museum of Glass, right, David, is there at the moment on a sales mission in China, I believe, with some folks. So it's all very, very good stuff. And then my piece to just update you on, I believe, is the World Travel Mart, which just ended. And we had our representative for communications that we put in place about a year ago. This was their first World Travel Mart for us, and it was a very successful 3 days. World Travel Mart is now not 4 days like it used to be, Christine, when you used to do the show. It's now just 3 days and longer meeting times throughout the course of each day, so you can still conduct the number of appointments you need to conduct. And for us, it was just a tremendous result for Martin Court, who's our lead agency rep there. His connections and relationships are tremendous. I think we had one media appointment that did not actually meet with us, and in many cases you're looking at about a 10% no-show rate sometimes on these events, because folks get busy and they change their minds or do something else. And in this case, one media appointment that didn't actually result for us out of a course of we had 3 time slots going for 3 days solidly. So I think it was about 120, 130 appointments. I'm kind of remembering there, but it was a very effective show. Again, thanks to Christine's leadership and the governor's support, we've been able to consistently attend these international trade shows and trade missions. It means a lot to our partners who are investing. I've noticed, that there are more and more investments that are being made on these lines, whether it's the Brand USA investment, whether it's cooperative marketing that we're doing, whether it's the use of the CFA, Consolidated Funding Application Market New York, for international marketing. It clearly matters. And I did ask Bob Myron to just crunch the numbers for me for this meeting today. And it turns out that international, it represents about 14% of the visitor volume for upstate, but represents almost 30% of the visitor spend for upstate. So 30%. Almost 1/3 of the total visitor spend comes from our international markets. So the potential is really, quite large for us to grow that.
Because they're destination visitors, they stay a longer period of time, right?
That's right. And the way that the travel is now unbundling, I mean, it's true across all of our markets, I think. Markley, feel free to add here. But the idea that people are traveling more individually and not as big groups, and they're looking to get deeper and more immersive experiences, as opposed to just kind of doing quick hits of big city, big city, big city, and then back home. And so we're finding that there is a desire for folks to really have a New York City plus experience, whether it's plus Long Island or whether it's plus all of upstate New York. And that's true in China, that's true in Germany, that's true at WTM for the UK. And Ireland in particular, I mean, a lot of conversations from Ireland where there's a tremendous interest in growing that piece of the business, and that comes from our reps there too, with Ford Communications having great connections to the airlines and to the various trade and media in Ireland. We'll look forward to advancing that in the coming year.
What is the dollar doing to our overseas visitors and spending?
Well, the UK is a little lower than the past, but we haven't seen any decrease in the traffic from the UK. Last year we had 1.2 million visitors from the UK. We think it's going to be a number north of that this year, despite everything else macro and microeconomic going on. The dollar difference between Canada has made a difference. We have seen a decrease. I think we saw just about 1.5 million less visitors from Canada last year, and that certainly is because the Canadian dollar against our dollar is probably at record lows for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years now. But so far, I mean, for us to eclipse the 100 billion mark again last year and to have 234 million visitors versus 227 million visitors the year before, we're still moving the needle forward, and I think that largely goes to the efforts that Markley and his team and all the reps. It's consistency. It's just staying at it. It's grassroots stuff. It's not really, we don't do any high-reach advertising. We don't do any television in international markets. It's all very grassroots, with the trade and the media and so on and so forth. David, you.
Okay, got one other item with Canada. We had a delegation return from Ontario Motor Coach Association, and last year, if we looked at it, it was just everyone just held their hands in their head in their hands and just said, "Well, woe is the economy. We're not planning too many ventures in the United States." And since that year, we've seen a shift, and even though the exchange rate really hasn't shifted, it's just a matter of, okay, we're comfortable with it now. So we're anticipating there's probably going to be a bigger volume of Canadian visitors looking ahead at 2017. And then Markley's and Gavin are both being way too modest about the importance of this international marketplace when it comes to upstate. During the time that the educational session was going on September 13th, there was actually 2 different FAM tours, one of UK tour operators and travel agents, and one of Canadian tour operator or Chinese tour operators and travel agents going on throughout central New York and the Finger Lakes, and we had great response to that. So, and that does not happen without I Love New York's involvement. It does not happen.
And I'll just anecdotally add on the exchange rate situation. Dan Fuller, I don't know if you're still on the phone, but Dan's mountain, Bristol Mountain, is an innovator in hosting the first LGBT ski weekend in New York State. They started it 3 years ago, and it's largely done with the Toronto Ski Club. And that happened for 2 years, and last year they canceled. And they explicitly said because of the exchange rate, they just couldn't do it, their members weren't interested. It looks like it's back on again. And to David's point, the rate hasn't changed. It's just kind of an adjustment. It's like, all right, this is life now. We can't just stop life. And they loved it so much, the Canadians that came down from it. It looks like it's coming back. So, like I said, purely anecdotal, but a good point.
Well, I've got some facts. So I don't think we should underestimate our attractions that we have in New York. And maybe one year it is going to, the dollar is going to affect, but if the Canadians do want to come to New York State because we have so many great things. Our early season sales splits for Whiteface indicated a big uptick in the Canadian buy for this year, so we're encouraged by that.
That is very encouraging. Great.
Ross, this is Dan Fuller. I would concur with what Ted said, but we're looking at some various programs that will hopefully get the rate closer down to par to encourage that kind of traffic.
That's great, Tim. So the last piece of my report, Christine, is relative to beautiful destinations. And as you know, I think it was about 6 months ago, we engaged Beautiful Destinations to use their platform, bless you, Patty, which, by the way, they're the #1 influencer on Instagram. And so they have a huge audience, and they took pictures of each of the vacation regions and then posted it to their audience. And it created this halo effect for our own Instagram account, and of course got us a number of new folks that are paying attention to our Instagram account. This particular piece that we're going to share with you relates to the governor's commitment to the Catskills. As you know, about a year ago, the governor said he wanted to really focus and highlight the Catskills, and there were $5 million were dedicated to the Catskills. In conferring with the Catskills, they broke it into 2 years, so we're going about it with about $2.5 million this year and $2.5 million next year. And the Beautiful Destinations work that you're about to see is as a result of that focus and highlight on the Catskills. But I think you'll get the sense, like I do, that this is the type of content that we want to produce across all platforms. And Anna's in Washington, D.C., actually, I think, with President Obama today at the White House by invitation. So our head of digital is not here. But Ethan LaCroix is here, and I just have to tell you, the folks in our digital team are putting out such tremendous content, and Ethan is the lead for that content. So if you look at the 48 hours in Rochester, or the top 10 things to do for a family that won't cost you too much, that sort of thing. I mean, all these great ideas, they're kicking them around every month at a meeting that includes our advertising agency, that includes our PR agency, Melanie's on the line, so that we're syncing up our earned, owned, and paid media. And it's really been a pleasure to work with Ethan, and Ethan and the team. Nick's on the line, I think. Have you seen anything, Ethan, that you want to just add relative to what Beautiful Destinations has sort of done for the account, or from your perspective?
Well, I mean, we now own all of this content, so we're going to be able to use it on the site and even in our print materials going forward. So that's been a real advantage of it, beyond just what it's done for our own engagement and our own followers.
Yeah.
So that effect will keep helping us for a while.
Yeah, it's great. And so let me just share that with you. And certainly this is all available if you go to either Beautiful Destinations Instagram account, or you check out our own account. You'll find this content as well. We've knocked it down. It exists in short form, long form, and so on and so forth. This is going to be about a minute long worth of content that we're going to share.
There's still some more slides.
Oh, there are. Okay. All right. So then here's some of the customer feedback that we got about the actual use of the content so that it is inspiring travel, and hopefully we can have that through line. Beautiful Destinations is helping us to show who viewed the content and then posted from outside of their home zip code. So that suggests that there's an actual through line, that the travel occurred in New York State. So that's one of the neat things.
And certainly that's one of the things I've learned in working with the digital team is how conscious we are that social media is a tricky animal in that it's not just clickbait, right? It's not just about, oh, pretty picture. Okay, well, everyone loves pretty pictures, but how do you use the pretty picture to convert, right? How do you use the pretty picture to get people excited? And that's, I think, one of the reasons that the Beautiful Destinations partnership has been important and prioritized is because it does seem to produce that. You saw what people say, and they're literally saying online to their friends, so beautiful, we have to go there, right? And then bringing their friends into the discussion. And everybody else is seeing that too. And we know that in today's market, that's what's important, having authentic advocacy that's not just a paid commercial, but real people saying this is something we want to do. That makes all the difference.
Absolutely. So Lisa, if you would. So again, that's a short form, but you can see the level of production there, and again, the halo effect that it creates. It's really exciting to think that we're going to be able to do more and more of this work. And again, can't just say it enough how Ethan, the team, Nick, Anna are doing such a great job for us on that front. And that's my report, Christine.
Great job, Gavin, Markley. Anybody have any questions for Gavin, Markley? Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, keep up the great work. Now it's a pleasure to welcome Ted, who is with ORTA. We've had the pleasure of working together now for a number of years on many tourism summits up at Lake Placid. But Ted, there are some newcomers here that may not really know what ORTA is, so maybe you can just give us a 101 on ORTA and what the winter looks like.
Winter's coming your way, Ted.
I think my report will probably say who we are, but Christine, I'd like to thank you for inviting me down here today. I always love to come from up north down into the city here and to be able to talk about all the wonderful things in upstate New York. Is that anybody ready for a seventh inning stretch tourism joke?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to weave a little tourism with winter activity joke. Dan, I'm sorry. He always knows if I have to tell a joke. So Bill and Frank were down in Manhattan one day, and they decided they wanted to go on a trip up north, a destination trip for the weekend, and they wanted to go ice fishing. So they headed right up the Northway, and they got up into the Adirondacks, and they found a place to stay. And the next day, they went out and they rented a snowmobile on the lake, and they went out and they drilled down and sunk their lines down, and they didn't get much. They didn't get anything, as a matter of fact. And so they pulled up and they took their snowmobile and they drove to another part of the lake and they drilled down and they put their lines down. Nothing. So they did this all day long, and finally it was about to get dark, and they went to this one little cove and they drilled down and they put their lines in. They caught their limit within like 10 minutes. And Bill says to Frank, "Wow, what a great place this is. Let's mark this spot so that tomorrow we don't have to go all around the lake. We can just come right here." So Frank marked the spot. And so they drove back into the snowmobile, and Bill looks out there and he says, "Hey, Frank, I thought I told you to mark this spot." He goes, "Well, I did. I marked it right here on the side of the snowmobile." And Bill says, "Frank, what makes you think we'll get the same snowmobile tomorrow?" That's a double. So, again, thanks for having me here.
You gonna be playing Carolines later?
Sports,
Okay.
winter sports, and you know, in some regards, like skiing was, it was used for transportation and survival way back when, and somehow it's worked its way up through to recreation now. So back in history, back in the early 1900s, there was a hotel owner, Melville Dewey, up in the Adirondacks in Lake Placid, decided he'd get, I think it was 18 pair of skis, and he got them for his guests, and they were using them around the property. Well, he had unbelievable insight and forethought, this man. He started traveling the globe, and he thought that Lake Placid and New York State could host a Winter Olympic Games. And he got the Olympics in 1932. So a lot of people don't know that we've had the Games twice, 1932 and 1980. But from all that happened after the 32 Games, a lot of the sports started to develop. Like in Lake Placid, the Professional Skaters Association had their first meeting in Lake Placid. There were ski areas that started to spawn up all around the state. And skiing really took off till it got to the point where, well, Lake Placid alone had about 7 ski areas around the area. And Dan, can you help me? Is it, do we have like 48 ski areas now?
I think we're right at 52.
We're at 52. Okay, so we have more ski areas than any state in the country. And not only that, this sport has, we've elevated just past Utah a couple years ago with skier visits, and you know, we're number 4 in the country for skier visits, and we're not far away from number 3 at this point. And I think with the initiatives that the governor has set up and the synergies, Christine, that are going around this table, I see us creeping up and taking over number 3 here shortly.
What's number 3?
We're not going to say. I don't say the V.
I like to know our competition.
Oh, it's Vermont.
Oh, okay. The V word?
But we're ahead of Utah, and number 1 is Colorado, number 2 is California. Okay, so what do we have? We have our facilities. Whiteface Mountain was formerly Marble Mountain, and for those that don't know, Marble Mountain was on the other side of the mountain, actually, and there was a governor at one point that said, hey, in order to make tourism grow in the North Country, we need to move the ski area. So Governor Averell Harriman put Whiteface where it is today, and the state invested in that, and look what's happened. I mean, absolutely. And this is also the site of the Memorial Highway that the governor has just invested in, and we've seen more high double-digit growth in just 1 year in visitation. So Whiteface also is one of the ski areas that has a Taste New York at its facility, not only down in the wintertime, but also in the summertime up at the summit at the castle. Gore Mountain started as a North Creek Ski Bowl in the 30s with ski trains coming up. Then in 1964, the big ski area opened up, and it's a huge place. And we're also talking about Taste New York facilities at Gore Mountain and at Bel Air, which is in the Catskills, which opened up in 1949. We also manage and operate the Olympic Center, which has more sheets of ice under one roof than any facility in the country, as well as the Speed Skating Oval and our new conference center that I think everybody likes to come up and enjoy. The Olympic Sports Complex with cross-country, bobsled, skeleton, luge, and the Olympic Jumping Complex with summer and winter freestyle and Nordic training and competition. We also own the United States Olympic Training Center, which is the spot, there's only 3 in the country that have that designation. So if you look at kind of where we're located, we're right along the I-87 corridor. So as you go out of New York, you can see it's a prime location for our facilities to be able to get the impact out of the metro area, which we're continuing to push on very hard this year. But along, you know, you can see our ski areas along there. If you go along up north, you have Mount Peter, Thunder Ridge. You can reach over to Greek Peak. There's Wyndham, Hunter, Plattekill, West Mountain, Willard, Catamount, and Titus Mountains. It's a very, very powerful corridor for skiing. And Dan, yours is too along the thruway. Giving Dan some credit.
Yes, good.
You know, there's a lot that goes on just besides skiing up in our area, and thanks to I think the governor's investment in tourism, we're going to see a lot more. But it's just great. It's just prime for it. From you think of skiing all the time, but there's so many other things that are done, and in the summertime too. Even down at Bel Air, we have a beach that we operate. The gondola, on the left, it's called extreme tubing. And everybody's been to the ski jumps in Lake Placid, there's the big outruns, and we do tubing down there. It's over 50 miles an hour when you go down in the tube.
Is that water on there?
And
So it's on
that's
floor?
plastic.
It's on plastic.
And we also, ski jumpers land on it also. So we had one event this summer with Anytime Fitness, over 3,000 people in for a convention, and in one evening we put over 1,400 people down there. So when they were there for a barbecue.
I mean, not to get too anecdotal, but I did a family visit this year to the Adirondacks, and we went to the ski jumping. And what I didn't realize, which totally makes sense, is most ski training happens not on snow, because there just isn't snow anywhere in America for that long. So, they're using the jumps into the pool to practice their jumps, and they're using the other jumps to, it was fascinating.
Yeah, you can see on the right there, not only do they do training, but we do a lot of shows. Wild Wednesdays, Wet and Wild Wednesdays, that gets huge crowds. So events, maybe you didn't know it, maybe you do know it, but we do have, we love to help with the challenge events, the Adirondack, the Winter Challenge. Of course, there's the summer one, and now the Catskill Challenge. And I grew up in the Catskills, so I got to tell you, it was great to see the governor go down there and just say how wonderful the Catskills are, because they're beautiful. They are really fantastic mountains, and there's all sorts of things that happen there. But we have World Cups again this year, World Cup Luge. As you know, the governor helped commit $5 million to keep luge in New York State and in Lake Placid, because they were looking for a new home. And we're investing now in the facilities to make them the best in the world, and they already are top athletes in that regard. We have Stars on Ice in December, a lot of Nordic events, a big, huge event with Junior National Championships in March. I think there's 1,500 athletes that'll be there. And Globetrotters during the holidays, and the largest winter sporting event in the United States and the longest running ever, the Empire State Winter Games. So on the upper slide, you can see all those folks there. They come for a Miracle Challenge, and we've got about 14 of the 1980 hockey team guys back, and they get to rub elbows with them, and we do that at the end of March. World Cup Luge, upper right. We've got the Loppet, which is a large cross-country event that takes place in February. ECAC Hockey for another 3 years. World Cup Freestyle, and World Cup Bobsled and Skeletons coming up in November, December of this year. They're important events for us because not only is it just for sport, but we're promoting our New York message and Lake Placid, but especially in the New York message around the globe, not just in the United States, but around the globe, because these are televised nationally and internationally. A big event that I want to start discussions with Markley on is we've won one of the largest events that take place annually in the world. There's 4 of them. One takes place in Asia, one in Europe, one in Canada, and one in the United States. And so we have Skate America for Thanksgiving weekend in 2017. And there's some world markets that show up at these events. We send representatives to these events every year so we can win them back. And Chicago, and before that Detroit, they have a large Asian market. And I think that there's ways to get them to New York City and then to transport them up to Lake Placid for the event. So I think we have some opportunities there. Something else that we do is we like to immerse kids in sports, and so we have a sports development department, and we do thousands of kids each year. They get a taste of what it's like to be an Olympian. They go to the Olympic Training Center, they get to our facilities, they get to immerse themselves in sport, and who knows, out of that we may have our next Olympian, but if not for that, the wonderful experiences have been garnered by these kids. We also work with a program with the Figure Skating Club of Harlem, and we sponsor 8 to 10 athletes every year, skaters that come up, and we put them up sometimes in the Olympic Training Center or our housing, and we put them with our professional skating coaches, and they spend a whole week up there honing their skills. And I got to tell you, when they get back home and then they write the letters back to us, I mean, they're very, very heartwarming of the experiences that they've had. We're also very lucky because of what we do, I think nationally and internationally, to have some wonderful brands that are our partners. And I think everybody recognizes those brands, but they're very, very important to us, and it helps. They help with promotion as well, because there's many of them, Chevrolet, Anheuser-Busch, Coca-Cola. They come up with programs for their customers and for all their outlets, and digitally and actually experientially to get people to come to our facilities. And it goes without saying our relationship with I Love New York and all of you. But then we have our brand in action. And you know what our crest looks like. If you can see on the lower, that's Andrew Weibrecht. We sponsor world athletes, and we give them money to because it's tough for them out on the road, but because of that we get exposure. And with Andrew, who's now been a two-time Olympic medalist, bronze medalist, and now a silver medalist, Tim Burke up there, who's won World Cup events in biathlon. You can see Lake Placid on his straps there, but he also has it on his rifle. Jamie Grubel-Poser, the gal on the right there, she's a bronze medalist, and she's won multiple World Cups in bobsled. And then this year we've picked up Chris Masder, who's one of the top luge athletes in the world, but also pushing the brand of Lake Placid that you can see behind in the awards podium at one of our World Cups.
Does Andrew's family own the Mirror Lake Inn?
The Mirror Lake Inn in Lake Placid,
so he's in our hospitality world.
Yes, yes. Ed, one of the most renowned, I think, properties in the United States, Lakeside Hotel and Dining. It's a wonderful, wonderful place.
Great crab cakes.
Yes.
You go. You gotta try them.
And besides our other partnerships, you can see we work with a lot of different groups. Whether it's counties, whether it's other departments within the state, whether it's sports groups. But an interesting one there is the Globe, and we do have intimate contacts with all of the international sport federations, the winter sports federations, and we are very, very highly recognized in the world of sport around the world. So also with our partnerships, probably, maybe it's been 15 to 17 years ago, Orta started Media Night on its own. And we used to come down here to New York and beat our drum, but then we thought it would be a much, much more inclusive event, a bigger event to broadcast the message. So ski areas in New York and I Love New York have been involved. And now there's, for the second year, I believe we've got TPAs that are coming from around the state. So it's a way to showcase all of that's great in the upcoming winter. All these folks from the media come, and it's like one-stop shopping. They get to talk to all the different ski areas that are there, the different TPAs that are there, and it's a nice way to project New York State for what it is, which is this inclusive marketing group, which is so strong. We also do, and today I've got a meeting just to set this up, January 28th. We're going to come down the week before. We'll make snow in Central Park, and with our guys from Gore, do the snowmaking there. And we blanket the snow there and put it down, and then we bring in the snowcat, we groom it so we can do all sorts of different activities, and we've had upwards of 35,000 people there in one day, and we partner with I Love New York on that as well, and ski areas in New York, which is great to get the other ski areas from around the area to show up. Last year, ironically, we made all the snow, and then it snowed and it got canceled.
Too much snow.
What a great message.
I know.
It snowed just a little.
You guys closed the city.
It was 3 feet.
It was wonderful.
It was great.
I
I've got pictures of me cross-country skiing down First Avenue.
I'd love to do that with you someday. But, you wrap all this together, all the things that are happening, all the events that we do, the activities, and we're proud that there's 1,700 jobs because of that, and it's been increasing, and that does not include our food service. If you include our food service, which is a concession, but they're really part of us. It goes to about 2,100 employees with a nice economic impact as a result of that in not only around us, but statewide. So we're very proud that what happened in 1980, the shot that was heard around the world, the legacy that was created from that, and it continues. And we're very, very proud to be a New York State entity. We're very proud to be working for the governor and promoting tourism and activities. And we've got a lot more coming. And we're very excited about our future. And Christine, again, thank you for all that you do for this group and for New York State. And we'll see you at the Adirondack Challenge.
Yep.
And thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Ted. Thanks. Keep up the great work. All right, so you know the answer. But who, just a trivia, who actually took the shot that you heard around the world? Hockey player. One shot. He's got a nickname. Michael Ruzioni.
Yes.
Captain, right?
Michael Ruzioni.
What is the date of the Adirondack Challenge yet?
We don't. Right?
It's usually sometime.
We'll let you know a week before.
End of February, early March.
Strike that
February.
from the minutes.
That's right. Yeah, early March, you're right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And we started making snow at 2 of our facilities so far, and we've got cold weather coming at the tail of this week and into the Thanksgiving holiday. So I'm confident that we're going to have something for our enthusiasts by Friday after Thanksgiving.
So we should have a longer than 12-week season this year?
We went longer than that, didn't we, Dan?
Yes, we did.
Yes. It's, you know, it's one of those things that I think when you get hit like that, it hurts the confidence of our skiers. We actually had some really great skiing last year at our resorts around the state, but it was just, I think the enthusiasm, it just took a big hit early on, and it's hard to get it back. And Dan, maybe you want to respond to that, but I think our ski areas we did around the state, we had some really good skiing. It was just hard to convince people.
It was. A lot of it, you know, it's the old theorem about snow in everybody's backyard. But Ted, one of the things that you didn't mention about, you know, our winter athletes that come from New York State, we've got 4 freestylists that are on the U.S. ski team just from Bristol. And combined with the other winter athletes from out of the state, hopefully that'll be an opportunity for us when the winter games come to really showcase some of those athletes.
Yes, and during the World Cup, they'll say, which, you know, when they show them on NBC, what their hometown, you know, where they're from. So that'll be another opportunity.
I do, something also that you didn't mention, Ted, which I learned last year when we were at our media night, is the program that ORTA has, or Ski New York has. So I guess it's a partnership program that you have about the 4th graders in New York State that can ski for free.
Yes, 3rd and 4th graders.
3rd and 4th graders, which is amazing.
Yes, that's where, and it's, you know, we have all of our ski areas across the state, but we participate in this, and it's, you know, let's face it, there's a lot of competition out there with young kids for different type of sports, different type of activities, and, you know, a lot of them are, you know, getting too electronically, you know, addicted. I would say strongly a word. We need to get kids outside. Yeah. We need to get them out in the fresh air. And I got to tell you, the sport of skiing is something that it grabs a hold of you for your whole life. I started when I was, my mom pushed me down our back hill when I was 3 years old. And I stuffed socks in my father's boots, and I had, you know, they were like 220 centimeter skis.
Is that where the mark on your head came from, Ted?
Yeah, that was a bad fall. But to this day, I went skiing with my mom several times last winter. She's just turned 90 years old. Wow. She's looking forward to, she's got her locker at the ski area already, and she's going to be skiing again this winter.
That's awesome.
So it's truly a lifetime sport.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank you. Just keeping on the sports theme, I know, Peter, you've done a little bit of work for us, some research on our sports commission, and I know Thurman would have liked to have been here today, but do you want to share with us some of the research you found?
Christine. At the Tourism Summit, I had a a really nice, positive conversation with Kristen Hannafin, who is the Special Events and Convention Director at the Lake George Regional Chamber, as well as Jennifer Rothman, who is the Sports Development Manager for Long Island Convention and Visitors Bureau. And they're based on the tour we took at Madison Square Garden, I don't know if it was last year or this year. It really fueled the notion. And so much so that at the 11th hour this morning, Kristen and Jennifer sent me this page here, which I'd like to, it's not a lot, but I'd like to read it to you as food for thought. And they would also like to be put on the agenda for the January meeting to come here and substantiate some of their thoughts with this, with statistical facts and stuff. They'd like to propose, again, for thought, the development of a New York State Sports Alliance. The creationists will be looking to work with all Convention and Visitors Bureau, sports commissions, DMOs across New York State to join together and start this alliance. The goal of starting this alliance is to bring more sporting events to the New York area. The mission of starting the Sports Alliance is to represent New York State as a whole during trade shows that pertain to the sports industry, National Association of Sports Commission, Connect Sports, Sports Relationship Conference, and teams. Its purpose will be to improve our rich history as a sports destination with hosting amateur, collegiate, international, professional sporting events. Also to create a stronger brand for New York State and becoming one of the leading destinations in hosting sporting events. To promote the Sports Alliance in sports industry publications, trade shows, websites, social media accounts. Work together as a state to grow a stronger relationship with sport event holders, and have I Love New York support the New York State Sport Alliance. She then goes on to mention a publication such as Sports Planning Guide and trade shows, National Association of Sports Commissions, which they would like to see us get involved with. I'm going to give a copy of this to you, to Gavin, to Ross, and also a copy of a suggested publication to take a look at. And like I said, they would like to be put on the agenda for the January meeting to come here, talk more about this. There are more than just the two of them. These two young ladies just happened to remember that I was on this committee, and we started talking about it at the summit. Maybe between now and then, too.
Yeah, let's try and have a meeting with them
Exactly.
first. Because in January, I think we were going to have Secretary Driscoll. I think that was the plan. The DOT Secretary, I think, to also talk about what's going on with visitor centers and everything else, all the great things. But I'm sure we can have them come in. I mean, all the TAC meetings are open, but why don't we try? And Ken Wong, I want to make sure that you're involved in this because Ken is taking a leadership role on our sports development as well. So that would be great.
I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will say, you know, Allie Sirota didn't really do justice when she introduced herself, but we actually have sitting with us a very well-accomplished equestrian rider who competes worldwide. So Allie, we're very happy that you're here, and Allie's been a tremendous resource, you know, for TAC and for me on the world of equestrian. If not, we've got two of them here, Eleanor and Allie, and so I would love for you guys to also be involved in this, and anybody else who's interested. But just if you look at how that sport alone is really grown so much in New York State, whether it's in the Hamptons or Salem or Central Park Horse Show, Lake Placid.
And they've got back-to-back
Right.
horse shows up there. And
Yeah.
one of them is actually called the I Love New York. Which, did you ever figure out if it's actually licensed properly?
Well, let's just say that
grandfathered in.
yes, right.
Grandfathered in.
Thank you, Lisa. That better.
Have you competed in hits?
I have competed in this. It's our race multiple times.
One of the big events in my county, still is.
Yeah.
Extra county.
They have a lot of great competitions up there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, one of the things Allie and I have already started to work on, the governor has honored me, I guess, with putting me on the state fair committee. I guess to look the task force to see about how to try and get more folks to come to the state fair. The good news is more and more people are going to the state fair. They had a record turnout last year, so the bar is set a little bit high, which will make it a little bit challenging to continue to grow. But one of the ideas Allie and I have been batting around is maybe there could be some kind of horse show element whether it be Westerns, that was a
Yeah,
terrific,
it's just-
you know,
State Fair already has a huge equestrian competition.
but it's not part of, it's.
Part of the State Fair.
Is it part of the State Fair?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, it's, yeah, one of the kids at my barn was in the 6 classes at the State Fair this year, Western, at least.
Oh, Western,
See, that's
yeah,
why
so,
I-
yeah, we were talking
my
about the
idea was
Western.
because
Right, I mean, Western
we've
is,
got Hampton Classic.
right, I don't know how much there is English in it,
I
but.
don't think there's much.
But the way you get to the state fairs is through your county fairs, and it's not through the shows, it's not through the
Right.
rated shows.
Okay.
So it's a completely different route than regular equestrian
Normal
events.
stuff. Okay.
Right, so it's like, it's all of the local fairs, and you go, if you qualify at your local fairs, and a lot of 4-H stuff is also involved in it, and then you get your points, and that's how you get up to the,
Got it. Okay.
how you get up to
That's okay,
state.
we've got 353 other days at the state fairgrounds that we would love to have plenty of activity for, and equestrian would be perfect.
I missed the horse show at, in downtown.
We missed that too.
Sorota.
Kentucky's happy.
I went to Syracuse.
But there's any ideas on, our first meeting is gonna be on Thursday up in Syracuse, so I'll be, you know, please share with me, email me, any ideas that you may have. Those of you may know the State Fair a lot more than I do. I had the pleasure of going out with Ross a few years ago, and Gavin. And I-
Special day-long trips on JetBlue.
Yeah,
Like
JetBlue would be fine.
JetBlue,
Right,
do
Delta,
list.
your
Yeah.
competition is, you know, you guys can hash that out. I know Amtrak has a train going up too, although that we haven't
But it'd
really
be much
marketed
easier
that.
than buses, if you want to go for just a day,
Yep.
doing a round trip with a ticket would be actually really fun.
And the state fairgrounds, I mean, this year was noticeable, all the improvements that took place relative to, and it's really becoming the governor's vision for the state fair being reflective of the state as a progressive and on the forefront of all these various things. It was really, to me, it was night and day from you and I were there 4 years ago
Well, we went there
together.
to open up the First Taste New York.
Right, right.
Pavilion there.
Right.
And then, of course, ran over to the deep fry Oreo.
That's right. Why wouldn't we,
I had
right?
to try one. I
Why
never
wouldn't
had
we?
one before. Yeah.
And we saw the few
One is enough.
babies being born. The birthing barn babies were a highlight,
The birthing
right?
barn
Yeah.
was quite
Chaos. Yeah.
you know. Birthing barns, it was, you know, they announced that they, you know, now in barn 2, there will be, Ellie is
Yeah.
about to give birth, so like everybody goes to the stands and
Yeah.
Been there.
half
It's
hour
pretty
later,
impressive.
another one's ready. It's quite
I
interesting.
used to do that at 4 o'clock in the morning on our farm.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Where was your farm?
Delaware County,
Where?
South Courtright.
Got a house in East Branch.
Oh, you do?
So, but great, would love your input on that. Thank you so much, Peter. Anybody have any other new business? Anything to share with the committee? Okay. Well, our next meeting is going to be on January 23rd, but we'll be in touch before then. And I need a motion to close, right? Okay, Eleanor, and seconded?
Second.
Peter, okay. And it's 12:26. Okay, thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.